youthful hormone profile. So this is why studies show that strength training is the most consistent way to raise testosterone, for example, in men. It also, and here's something that's even more interesting, increases androgen receptor density. So these are the receptors that testosterone attaches to. And this is probably even more important than your testosterone levels. In fact, there was a study that tried to...
Really interesting.
Yeah, they did a study where they were comparing men and their testosterone levels and athletic performance and strength gains. And they were also looking at androgen receptor density. Androgen receptor density was a better predictor of strength and muscle gains, right? Yeah. So strength training literally opens up more androgen receptors. It's trying to make your anabolic hormones even more effective and anabolic. So people are constantly looking at ways to become more youthful. Hormones are a great way to do that. Strength training literally tells your body to organize them in a way to do so. So it's the benefits are so far-reaching. You know, you talked about storing glucose. So here's something that's really interesting. I know you'll like this. Strength training has been shown to be one of the most effective ways to stop or halt the progression of the beta amyloid plaques that are so associated with Alzheimer's, right? In fact, I think it's the only non-medical intervention to do so. And at the end of the study, it actually looked like it may have been reversing some of those plaques. This was a study done out of Sydney, Australia. And they were quite blown away. One of the theories has to do with insulin sensitivity. As you probably already know, some researchers refer to dementia and Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes. So what you do when you build muscle is you create a larger tank to store, glycogen or glucose, but muscle is also extremely insulin sensitive. So your body just utilizes insulin better as a result. So building muscle is a great way to do that. And another study just came out of Sydney as well recently that showed that strength training reduced all-cause mortality better than any other form of exercise and cancer risk.
This is so crazy. So I've heard people say this a gazillion times, but I really think people are letting this go over their head, that if you look at the efficacy of diet alterations and exercise, the impact on things like cancer, longevity, hormones, like all of it, it is so much more profound than the most effective drug.
Yeah.
That it's like, if you had a drug that improved your metrics the way that exercise improves your metrics, it would be like a blockbuster $1 trillion like thing. But because we can't just pop the exercise pill, people leave the most obvious solution on the table.
Yeah, one of the best parts about it is that the improvements continue the longer you do it. Whereas with medications or drugs, for example, when they compare exercise to antidepressants for mild to moderate depression, okay, so this is the most common form of depression, very similar results when it comes to relieving the symptoms of depression. But as you follow the studies, you start to see that exercise actually starts to do better. Now, why is that? There's no downregulation of receptors. Your body doesn't adapt to exercise the same way it adapts to medications. It's like when you drink caffeine, you get this buzz, drink it every day, it starts to lose its efficacy. Exercise actually improves over time. If anybody who's worked out consistently and appropriately, and I do want to be very clear, appropriate is important here.
Because people push it too far or what?
Yes, all forms of exercise can be applied inappropriately. And all forms of exercise also have value. I also want to say that because I know we're talking about strength training. And I make the case that strength training in the context that we're painting is the most effective form. But all forms of exercise have a lot of value. They all need to be applied appropriately. What's appropriate depends on
even cardio. You're not throwing shade on it. You're just saying you got to be thoughtful.
Yes. It has to be, it's based on the individual. What's your fitness level and your ability to recover? What does your current lifestyle look like? Is this adding too much stress to your body, the right amount? Is it improving the quality of your life? And you can always adjust your workouts accordingly. So you have to do all those things. But yeah, when it comes to improving all health metrics, mental, psychological, and physical, as you follow along, as you continue the process, it gets better and better. There's no medication that does that at all. Almost all start to show reduced efficacy and people need to change medications and what's going on here. So yeah, 100%. And I like to talk a lot about strength training, mainly because you don't need to do a lot of it to get a lot of these effects and these benefits. And it's because, Tom, I trained people for so long, and I did a really good job of getting people who never worked out to do it forever, right? That's I'm trying to look at how do I get people to do something forever, okay? The best I got was 2 or 3 days a week out of people. It's just, I couldn't turn the average person into a fitness fanatic. It took me 5 years to figure that out, but I'm like, okay, Mrs. Johnson is not gonna be a personal trainer like I am, isn't gonna live in the gym. I gotta figure out a way to get the best results for her in the 2 or 3 days a week that she's gonna, spend time exercising. And it was strength training by far. Nothing came close to it.